Do you have a stance on, because there's a big topic today on social media, industrially refined seed oils from a nutrition, from a health standpoint?
Well, just from a basic science standpoint, I see them as problematic, being that if they're processed with hexane, different solvents, these are not chemicals that we should be consuming regularly. Not to mention, if a fatty acid is easily oxidizable, we talked about this earlier, the process of oxidation and lipid peroxidation in the body, these give rise to free radicals. So when something is easily oxidizable, you are increasing the rate of oxidation in the body, which is the basis of aging and disease. Am I saying that seed oils are the only thing that are causing this? Absolutely not. Most chemicals out there, mechanistically, are destroying our proteins, our cells, and our lipid bilayers through the process of oxidation. Microplastics, all different types of chemicals that cause toxicity, cause harm in the body, chemicals that are found in cigarettes, in automobile exhaust, in smoke, heavy metals, they have a basic mechanism of causing oxidative stress.
And that mechanism has been elucidated for highly refined, oxidation-prone polyunsaturated fats when extracted from the food matrix, heated as they typically are, particularly in the restaurant setting, but they're marketed as cooking oils, so they're being exposed to heat. But I really welcome nuance being brought to the conversation, because people love to identify or to believe that they've identified the boogeyman, and so a lot of people point at seed oils today as the soul smoking gun in terms of all of our health ailments. But I think it's important to recognize that there is no soul smoking gun. This is a multifaceted issue, and I think with seed oils, it probably is a case of the dose making the poison, but you so much as bring up the topic today on social media, and it's become so inflamed, and so polarized, as so many other topics have become, where it's like, on the one hand, some argue that they're the worst thing ever. Again, the sole boogeyman, the sole causal player in all of our problems. But then others seem to give them free rein and, suggest that they're, in fact, healthy and we should be consuming more of them. Which at this juncture, I believe the truth is likely somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, because I think, it's not just one thing that's causing all of the health issues. It's the multitude, like you said, of all the things that we're being exposed to. If they're all triggering the same molecular mechanism and pathways, that kind of tells you something. It's not just one thing. It's the same core basic mechanism that's causing a lot of the issues that we're having.
Yeah.
Health-wise.
Well, the advocates for seed oils will say that, there's a lot of really scary mechanistic stuff and animal studies that show really kind of scary, there's some scary potentiality there, but the human randomized control trials don't bear out the harms. The epidemiology don't necessarily show a signal of harm. But I don't know. I just think that the human randomized control trials are all very short term. The epidemiology is mired by lots of potential confounding. Polyunsaturated fats, for example, are found in very healthy foods like nuts and seeds and things like that, fish. So, for example, looking for serum levels of linoleic acid might actually indicate, and seeing an association between higher levels and more positive health outcomes there might be healthy user bias there. And also these oils have been marketed as healthy for so many decades. So again, I have to default to the precautionary principle. These oils didn't exist in the human food supply prior to 70 years ago.
Yeah, that's how I practice as well. Just looking back on the historical data, what have we been safely using the longest? I'll stick to those. That's generally how I operate, and how I think that's an easy way of thinking about things. Just how have things historically been used? Yeah. Going back to what our ancestors did is a good idea, in my opinion, in many ways.
I think it's a great idea. What role would you say diet plays or other lifestyle habits, interventions like sauna, you kind of alluded to sauna use earlier, like in so far as our capacity to detoxify. I mean, what is one, we've talked about a lot of scary things, obviously, over the course of this conversation, but as a consumer, as somebody tasked with thriving or surviving and ultimately hoping to thrive in this environment, what are some ways to potentially, I don't know, detoxify? We've already talked about ways of reducing exposure, but any ways of stacking the odds in our favor, so as to be more resilient, because these exposures are to some degree inevitable today. I hate to say that, but it is true. So yeah, detoxifying, it's sort of a word that's been co-opted in many ways by the wellness industry. But is there any way for us to detoxify in a way that's effective?
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned two things. First, you mentioned the fact that we should avoid, right? So I think in the process of detoxifying our lives, avoidance is absolutely imperative, because if you keep feeding your body more toxic substances, it can only detoxify to a certain rate. So removing the sources, removing the triggers, that's huge. The inputs, if you can cut them off, that's best. Number two, you can use lifestyle interventions. I am not a proponent of gimmicky detox pills, teas. That necessarily isn't going to be the best. What's best is lifestyle changes. So for example, if you take off your shoes at the door, you're leaving a lot of junk from outside. If you want to change into indoor shoes, that's great. Barefoot, whatever your preference is. Just leave the outside shoes at the door. Detoxify your air by simply opening a window. Opening a window can refresh the room air of an average size room in less than an hour. Completely. Just if you open a window. It doesn't even have to be completely wide open. And even during the winter, I know that it's colder, cooler. People may not want to do that. But actually, when I visit relatives in Germany, even in the dead of winter, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you have to open those windows and let the stale air out. You've got to let the fresh air in, even if it's cold. It's actually really invigorating, which I'm sure you've experienced as well. So simple things like that. Then you can also exercise. Exercise is massive for so many things. I mean, you've talked about it. Exercise, it's a non-negotiable. Moving your body can actually increase the amount of glutathione that you have in your body, which is the master antioxidant and detoxification molecule in the body. It's the most powerful. It's the most miraculous and amazing thing. And I'm a bit partial to it because I studied glutathione for my PhD.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, I absolutely studied glutathione in the context of how it can help protect our reproductive organs from toxic injury from environmental chemicals. And it does. So don't deplete your glutathione because once you do, it's really hard to bring it back without adding in exogenous glutathione.
Hey, if you like that video, you need to check out this one here, and I'll see you there.